Alright, let's continue back from previously when we actually set up the two UV set. So I actually have two Alice textures that which is consists of the room and also the asset in the scene. So two textures that actually render as a UV layout as a PNG file. So now let's go ahead and go to Photoshop. Okay, so in Photoshop we're going to open up the two UV files. So looking here is actually this one, room 01 and the asset 01. So I'll just bring the room 01 UV PNG file into Photoshop first, and you see something like this, and you see this is because there is actually no base layer below, so it's actually transparent. This layer, because it's PNG, so it's transparent, so we probably want to create a layer and drag it below and name it as background. Okay, so then you actually can use, let's say you use a background color, but use white color and by filling this layer, and I can see that it's actually now the lines a bit more kind of like show in already. So take note, if you're using, let's say, zooming out, if you zoom in at 33%, you probably see the line is not as sharp. So you probably want to zoom in a bit more to get a more detail, whether is it sharp enough. If it's not sharp enough, right, so this layer, we're going to do some adjustment to it. So first thing first, I'm going to go and name this layer as outline. So important now, in any textures that we want to do in any Photoshop, probably these two layers must come first. The outline should be the highest level layer and the background should be the lowest layer. Then whatever we do is in between. Then we should explore in later on. Okay, so now we're gonna make sure this line is a bit more sharper, so it looks kind of a bit broken and it's not sharp enough. So we can go to image adjustment levels and we kind of play around the levels. So if we slide the lines to the right, and the red line becomes a bit more sharper. Okay, so this is one way we can actually get a very nice clean line. So looking at this, is probably looks okay, right? Right, so then let's say you still feel the lines still a bit too not so strong, right? You can actually duplicate this layer, and when you duplicate this layer, right, this layer will actually act as a multiply to the previous layer. So you have a more thicker and sharper black outline. So you can actually merge these two layers together. Okay, merge down. Okay, you have this new outline layer which is much sharper. So this is how you can get a very nice clean, let's say, UV before you even start working. So there are actually two types of canvas for the UV layout that you should start. One is actually with the black outline, another one is actually the white outline. So I want to show you with the other files how we actually do the white outline. Throw in the asset into Photoshop and open as a new file. So this one, same thing, I need to have a background layer, and then this background layer, this time I'll throw in a black color instead. Okay, so let's throw in a black color into the layer and you see something like that. And this one, outline layer, by default is actually white color, right? So white color, so it's different from this. Same function, if you go to adjustment, you go to levels, and you can now you can play around this line on the other direction. You can get a whiter line. Okay, so now this is actually another visual that can actually work. You either want to work with the white canvas, black color outline, then or white outline, black color canvas. But I want to talk also about the color of the background. Usually we do not want to go too extreme on this, meaning that we do not want either too white or either too black for the canvas. So something canvas, we shouldn't go to pure white and pure black. We want to get something in between this range, preferably if this range is below here. Anything below this line here, around here, will be a nice range. Example, if I take the range in the middle, right, instead of pure black, and I want to go to the background layer and just fill up, and I get something like this, right? So this is probably a nicer outline for us to start something. So you can see that with gray color, you probably can choose yourself which color, black or white, is more suitable for you to start your UV layout. Okay, some people will probably prefer white, some people will prefer black, and my choice is probably will go to black. In time to time, if I want to, let's say, turn this to white, I just use the levels and turn it back. So that's the rule. You do not want to go a bit too white and too dark. Maybe if your line is white, you probably want to go a bit more darker. for your canvas, so the line will stand out. Okay, so probably something like this will be a good start for you. And then when you can actually want to do painting between it, you can actually reduce opacity. So knowing this, then this is how we actually will do. And also one other thing also, if you when you want to plan your UV canvas, right, you want to think about what kind of color is the dominant scene. Okay, that means the dominant color for the scene. Example, like if I prefer to have something, let's say reddish a bit, okay, then I probably will notice that. Actually, I noticed something here. Actually, this is not very clean, so I actually can go back and adjust it later on. It's not perfect, so probably be careful of this overlapping, which we do not want it to happen. Okay, so probably I accidentally selected something here to put. So that is something that when we always check the UV whether there's any error before we even start working. Make sure there's no overlapping before we even start painting something in between. So the background, going back to the background, actually you can decide, let's say if you want to use a bit color, like maybe the scene's a bit earthy and you want to use a bit like something like this, then you have to look at what the color that the light source will actually affect your canvas, and it's something you should be wary of. And actually when you use the right color, the whole scene will looks better. Also, the reason why we don't use black and white is because is the texture streaming in LOD streaming inside the game engine, because when the textures, right, is 2K, right. So one example here is when you use the game engine, and in this view is using 2K. When it goes up, zoom out, it becomes like 1K. There's actually a drop of textures size by the game engine itself. Is actually automatically turned on. So then the file streaming, right, the texture streaming, right, will change to 1K. And then when you have something that's really very bright and white, you will see a very strange color blinking on the edges of all the asset. Okay, so asset will be more obvious. It's either black or white, and that's something we want to avoid. So probably can read out something this when we want to go to the game engine side. But bear in mind, please do not use pure white and pure black. We can use a little bit color, depends on what the color of your background. Okay, so once we decide this, right, the next thing is actually whatever you want to paint should be in between outline and background. So in this case, probably I'll just lock the outline. When you lock outline, actually you can be very sure that you're not going to do any painting on it. So if you want to use paint, it cannot be painted, so it's locked. Okay, so this is very good. Okay, so what we do is we want to paint something in between the outline and the background. So when your painting layer, it should be in between. It shouldn't be above. If you're above, you see something like this. Okay, so this is how actually you should be very careful when you do this painting. Also, you can actually do something in the outline. You will change the opacity, up to you. So when you do painting, you should in between this one. We'll touch more about proper file management, but first remember this one, outline should be very important. So I will highlight this one, important. You probably want to have that layer on the first and background on the last. Okay, important. So highlight this one, and whatever in between, let's say if you want to put in between this texture here, should be texture, as long as the texture painting. And remember the previous lesson about the 3 layers should be base, shadow, and highlight. So these are the file management for you. It can either be a folder or it can be a layer, depending on you. So now let's go ahead and try out some textures on the model itself. Okay,